Howdy YouTube, you have no idea how excited I am today, and that's because we're taking a look at one of the rarest figures ever made, one of the most expensive and hard to find figures of all time. It's from the Dragon Ball GT Battle for Freedom Series 7 set. We've got Omega Shenron and Goku. A ridiculously cool set, an extremely rare and hard to find set as well. This is sold for over 1,000 Australian dollars. Just crazy, ridiculous drug money. Is it worth that? I don't think so personally, but it has sold for mega money. Sells usually between $400 and $500. Ridiculous. Completely insane, unjustifiable. But that's what people are prepared to pay for it. It is extremely rare. Why is this set so rare? What makes it so expensive? That didn't sound good. Well, essentially what it comes down to is originally Dragon Ball Z toys were made by a company called Irwin. Irwin had the figure license, and they then sold that license to Jakks Pacific, who are, I guess, best known for making wrestling figures. Jakks Pacific then took the license and reissued a lot of the older Irwin figures. In addition to that, they then made some of their own figures as well, such as the two that we've got here. And if you've seen my channel, you've seen the Goku and Captain Ginyu that Jakks made, that I've reviewed. You've seen the Baby and some of the other Dragon Ball GT figures, Cell, Majin, Vegeta, etc., that Jakks Pacific made, that are pretty cool figures. All of them sell for big money. Why? I guess because Dragon Ball Z is such a cult classic show, and it is a really iconic show as well. So then we get to this particular set and what makes it so expensive and so rare. Essentially, this was the last set Jakks ever made. So the last series of Dragon Ball Z action figures that were ever made. And that makes this very rare for a number of reasons. One, it was not widely released around the world. It only had a limited run. So it's hard to find. Not only is it hard to find, but the figures themselves are pretty cool. Not so much the Goku. I think the Goku's pretty shit. And one of the problems with GT was that they made him small. Super Saiyan 4 Goku, fantastic, by the way. But it is Omega Shenron, the final Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT villain, the final one in the series. We're excluding Dragon Ball Super, which they've recently rebooted, which I haven't checked out yet because it's not in English, but I haven't heard great things about it. I have watched the first episode and it looked like Goku's farming adventures, but that's a rant for another video. So we had Omega Shenron, the rarest of all Dragon Ball Z action figures. They also released Nova Shenron and Ace Shenron, the blue version. And they're quite expensive. They sell upwards of $250 American, which is, again, crazy money. So this is an extremely rare set. And I'm very happy to finally get my hands on it. We see at the top, nice artwork. We've got Omega Shenron and Goku there. Let's turn this around and take a look at the back of the packaging. And taking a look at the back of the packaging, we see the other figures in the set. We've got Oob and Super Baby Vegeta. The Baby Vegeta figure is fantastic. I've reviewed that. Super 17 and Super Saiyan Vegeta. I'd love to get my hands on that pack. Very hard to find. Super 17 is one of my favorite Dragon Ball Z characters of all time. And then we have Goku and Omega Shenron. Other figures in the set, I have reviewed this Captain Ginyu and also Goku. We've got Goku, Burda, I want to get my hands on too. And Battle Damaged Super Saiyan Vegeta. Really cool. They made some fantastic figures. Shame they stopped producing it because they did have some really cool ones. And these sell, again, as I say, for ridiculous money. Don't ask me why, but they do sell. That's the scary thing. They do sell for mega money. So with that, shock and awe, we're going to open this set up and take a look at Goku and Omega Shenron. Okay, and here we have Omega Shenron and Goku opened up and out of packaging. We'll start with Goku, probably because that's the least important in this set. He does have a swivel tail, which is something I wasn't expecting, to be completely honest. He has a ball-jointed head, ball-jointed arms, ball-jointed elbows, no articulation in the waist. Oh, well, you do, actually. Swivel waist and swivel legs. For its time and for what it is, it actually has a lot more articulation than I thought it would. It looks to me really stupid, and I'm not a big fan of this particular figure, but it is very well painted. That I will give Jakks. They did a really good job with that, and surprisingly articulated. Again, something I did not expect whatsoever, and that's kind of cool. Anyway, so that's Goku. Again, much like when you buy a new car, it begins to depreciate instantly. That's kind of what I feel with these figures right now, taking them out of the box. But having said that, I don't particularly care. The main reason for that is I've wanted these figures for, well, really this guy, for a very long time. As I said before, he is, I guess, the ultimate Dragon Ball Z collectible you can get your hands on. Very well sought after. And I didn't pay anywhere near the money that he has been selling for. Just through a friend of mine on YouTube. So, yeah, I was able to get my hands on this guy, and I am very, very happy with him. In terms of a figure, he is pretty cool, and I can see why some people would pay a lot of money for him, because he is nothing like any of the other figures that we've gotten from the Dragon Ball Z line. First of all, the face scan, I think they nailed it. I think it does look like Omega Shenron. Mine must be rarer because it has an additional Dragon Ball, apparently. So that's something I'll probably go back and try and fix up at some point. I mean, he does look very cool. He is very big and very impressive. I'll bring in some other figures for comparison shortly. Taking a look at the back of the figure as well. You can see where all of his spikes and horns go. Now, they are fairly easy to clip on. So if we see, you basically just slot them in. There's not a great deal of work to it. Did I go that way? I guess so. As a villain from the show, I really liked him. I thought he was one of the better villains that we had gotten. I mean, Dragon Ball GT had some really good villains, and it also had some pretty poor ones. This one, okay, there you go. So they do have a specific way of going in. As I say, as a villain, I thought he was pretty good. I quite liked him. Dragon Ball GT in general had some really awful episodes, but also had some great episodes. I think it had some of the best villains in the series. Frieza comes back, Cell comes back. You have, you know, Super 17, Baby. You had, obviously, the Shenron saga as well. I mean, it had some good stuff to it. It's a shame that it didn't really get all that much love. And on one hand, I do understand that, but at the same time, I didn't mind it. I mean, he is a very impressive figure. No doubt about that. Okay, so let's run through articulation on this guy, because there is a fair bit. Ball-jointed head, which is nice. Ball-jointed arms. Ball-jointed elbows. Swivel in the wrist. Ab crunch. Swivel in the waist. Ball-jointed legs, so you get a ton of articulation and movement. Ball-jointed knees and ball-jointed ankles. So as far as articulation goes, he has a ton, which is fantastic. He does stand reasonably well. The fact that he has all those ball joints, I think, really helps the figure. Definitely sets it out, that's for sure. He is very impressive. I am definitely a big fan of this guy. And just for comparison, here we have Omega Shenron with some of the other Dragon Ball Z figures that have been released. Broly, who is massive, is significantly smaller than Omega Shenron. The Cell, Jakks Cell, one of my favorite figures there from the second form, a lot smaller. Regular Goku, a lot smaller. Even Baby, which is a much larger, as you can see, Dragon Ball Z figure by Jakks, is a lot smaller. Same with Piccolo as well. And then the Irwin ones are even smaller again. So this guy is fantastic. I love the detail on him. If you're a Dragon Ball Z fan, then you're probably not going to pick this guy up because he's too expensive. If you are a diehard fan and you've got the money and you're looking for a rare, probably the rarest of the rare in terms of Dragon Ball Z figures, again, he has sold for just crazy, ludicrous, ridiculous money, and he's probably the most expensive figure I've even bought myself, even though I got him at a good price relative to what he normally goes for. He's still crazy expensive, but part of me thinks he's worth it, at least to some extent. If you're a big Dragon Ball fan, then this is the holy grail. This is the one to get. One of the cooler figures in my collection as well. I'm glad I finally have him. And let me know in the comments below what you think of this guy, what you thought of Dragon Ball GT, and who your favorite Dragon Ball universe villain is of all time. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this review on the rarest of the rare. We've got the Battle for Freedom Series 7, Goku versus Omega Shenron.